Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories, even to your baby, even before they're one, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be like, really, really compelling, one. The next thing would be like in terms of like the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books to just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in like ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would stack up with any book published elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think what would be like the most important tip for me to them would be just they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? It's. Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Like getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up like your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires like decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you like raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of the totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayome Saleh, and today I'm joined by the amazing ladies. We have, these are the, what's it called?
The Monday Tonics.
Monday Tonic and Party Rockers. Not party,
Not really.
Light choppers.
Yeah. That's my ministry. You got it.
Who am I starting with? I'm telling you, I've not seen you since Rwanda. How are you, Elsie Godwin? I'm still seeing the pictures. Lovely. You had so much fun.
I had fun.
I can see.
I did have fun.
You did.
Too
you
much.
Too much fun.
Too much.
We're planning another fun.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get back to you guys on that.
That's the light choppers there. You know, but how was it? How was Rwanda?
It was good. It was beautiful. And I, you know, when you read some things about a particular place in the media, especially when you're already with the Nigerian mentality, right? And you just think, okay, maybe it's just media. And then you go there, it's really what they say it is. I love how neat the country is.
Oh, really?
Or at least Kigali is. Let me not say the country, but I love how neat it is. And peaceful, calm. People wait and do things when they're supposed to do it. In fact, there are some things they do there that I know it can never work in Lagos. Never. It's not about corruption. It's about the
order.
People.
The order. The
not
people.
Even the population. Like we're a lot. So imagine before you get into the airport, I have to. If I'm in the car, I have to calm down. The car will go through its own check. Then the human beings will go through their own check before you get into the
We're
airport.
not gonna do it.
That's I said it can't happen.
We're not gonna do it.
But those are security checks. So that happened to me when I went to Kenya. I think so.
It cannot be.
But I don't think
Maybe they can do it in a way.
I don't think no way. No. How about you, buddy? How was your weekend?
No, weekend was good. So on
You
Saturday.
look refreshed.
My weekend was refreshed.
I
You didn't ask me.
do.
You only asked for Rwanda.
You went to do massage now. We'll talk about that later.
I'm telling you, mine was very good. I went out on Saturday with my friends. So I just hung out with my oldies. Oldies but goodies. Yeah, so I had a good time. And then Sunday was just sleeping all day.
Money be honest.
That really.
Was there money to be made in that hangout?
Funny enough, for the first time, there was no money to be made.
No, she's honest. She's for the first time.
But
So
first
she's
time,
not
yes.
arguing.
Normally, I wouldn't do anything if I, if I'm not making money, if I'm not doing business, if I'm not, moving forward, I will hardly do it. Yeah, but this time.
I want to be like you when I
It's getting better.
Are you serious? Is that about getting better? I don't know.
No, it is.
For
It's
me
about
right now,
balancing
see,
life.
2020,
It's not that
yeah,
deep.
well, it's about balancing life, yes. But 2022 right now, for me, it's about the numbers. So it's the year of the numbers. So.
Okay, interesting.
Money.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be money.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
All right, so we're having an interesting conversation. Today we're discussing youth participation. We always try to find everything politics that we're talking about. We have an interesting guest. Very young lady. And she's ran for office of, the House of Representatives in, House of Assembly in Lagos. So she's running again this 2023. So I'm super excited about, hearing from her and some of the challenges that young people are facing when it comes to, politics and involvement. And we're discussing politics and we're talking about participation, especially youth participation in politics. And here's what we found as today's quote. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. This is from Plato. Despite making up more than half of the population in many countries, young people ages 18 to 30 often find themselves marginalized from mainstream politics and decision making. They struggle to gain the respect of public officials and are seen as lacking the skills and experience to engage in political activities and lead positive change in their communities. Now, Okikiola Taiwo Jolupon is here to discuss why young people must participate actively in politics. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. You're still watching Ways. World Malaria Day is marked annually on the 25th of April to focus global attention on malaria. And its devastating impact on families, communities, and societal development, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. This year's theme is Harness Innovation to Reduce the Malaria Disease Burden and save lives. Malaria remains a significant public health and development challenge. In the last year, about 95% of the estimated 228 million cases occurred in the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, Afro region, along with 602,020 reported deaths. World Malaria Day is an occasion to renew political commitment and encourage continued investment in malaria prevention and control. So, World Malaria Day today. Who are we starting with about malaria? What's your experience with malaria? I don't know the last time I had...
We've all had malaria at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
A day like this, it's important for me to just remind everybody, not just our leaders and not just Nigeria now, Africa as a whole, the kind of attention and let me just leave that attention we give to COVID-19. If you look at statistics, right, if you look at the number of deaths we have from malaria in this part of the world, then if we are to be shutting anything down, then it should be shutting down for malaria. I mean, a friend of mine would say it became important for even the government, the high and mighty, to talk about COVID-19 because it was no respecter of class. Your money cannot save you. You can't decide to just build an amazing home or have your own segregated estates.
It's not possible.
Right? It's not possible. It gets to you, and
as
that was why.
But because communing with people,
you know,
would,
but this is a situation that has been part of us for the longest of time. We've been talking about it. We are hoping that there are solutions. The issues are sort of multifaceted in terms of death. Right, we also have issues of cholera and things like that. We've not seen the level of attention we saw for COVID on it. So I just think it's a day for everybody to really begin to reflect and wonder if we are really our brother's keeper, if we really love ourselves. If COVID-19 was also a sickness that could only hit the poor, would there have been a shutdown, right? So for me, I mean, it's World Malaria Day. We've always been talking about it.
So the thing with malaria is, the interesting thing is malaria is highly preventable, right?
There are countries that don't know what malaria is.
I mean, so malaria is something that, first of all, our environment, so you have all those clogged drainages and all of that are breeding points for malaria, for mosquitoes rather, that eventually translates into malaria. So if you understand how these things are important, so you would take even as basic as the sanitary condition of your country, you take it seriously. So every time you see dead water trapped or dead whatever trapped anywhere, you would see that mosquitoes would always be there. And go and check it out. Poor people do not have access to clean waters. They don't. So they are the ones that are really, really exposed, you know, to things like this. Thank God for the people that can afford what's it called, insecticides and all of these things. They keep your nets closed because you can turn on the air conditioner or the fan. Some people have to put, throw wide their windows because they need, if not, meningitis will kill, heat will kill them. If malaria is not killing them, something will kill them. So it's like you said, it's multifaceted. I hope that they are understanding the ripple effect. So when we do not have development in terms of power, when we do not have clean environment, like your drainages, all those things completely cleared from clogging and all of that, it's a direct implication. So when you say that you have over 600,000 deaths of malaria, right? It is crazy.
Yes.
You know?
So I'm in agreement with you, Uwa. For me, I always look at solutions, because we can go on and on talking about stuff, but if we're not looking at the solutions, then we're just rigmaroling. So I think there was a time we had in Nigeria, I don't know if it was only in Lagos or only in Benin, but I think it was nationwide, where we practiced something called the Sanitation Day. It was like one Saturday in a month where everybody had to stay home to clean up. So they cleaned the drainage, they cleaned everywhere, the environment, because if we have things littering around like tires, old tires, used tires, then we have water in them breeding mosquitoes. So I think the government should continue to practice these things that you should practice before, and continue to sensitize the public so that they know that these things are avoidable.
Play their part.
Yeah, but see, like we said, it's not just only about the government, so we need to play our part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so Well, we starting where?
Let me start.
Okay.
President Muhammadu Buhari has directed Nigeria's security agencies to intensify the clampdown on illegal refineries in the country. The directive follows the explosion that rocked an illegal refinery Friday night at Abezi Forest in Imo State. Of course, Premium Times had reported that scores of people were killed and several other people injured in the incident. The president emphasized the security agencies have been directed to intensify clampdown on illegal refineries. He also described the incident as a catastrophe and a national disaster. He said the responsibility of the loss of lives and property must squarely lie with the sponsors of the illegal refinery, assuring that they must all be caught and made to face justice. The president conveyed the condolences and the full depth and range of the nation's shock and trauma to families of the victims, the community, and the people of the state. He urged community leaders and the personnel of the Nigerian police force to take steps to ensure that such heartbreaking incident is not allowed to occur again in any part of the country. Over 100 persons were burnt beyond recognition, so it's a sad one. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. But I really hope that this doesn't just end in the news and talk. Something needs to be done so that, like he rightly said, this does not repeat itself again, because this is a national
They
disaster.
need to go after the person, the illegal bunker or whatever they call them. They need to go after him, because if you have a lot of illegal sites like this, then this will continue to happen, whether you like it or not, because of the level of poverty in our country. So I think what the government can do is just prevent all this illegal bunkering by looking for them and shutting them down. Yeah,
absolutely. Mani, your story.
Okay, my story, it's Lagos reopens Chrisland School after sex tape scandal. So after the sex video went viral on social media, the state government had on Monday announced the closure of all the branches of the school in their state. The government on Saturday directed Chrisland School across the state to reopen. He said the decision to close the school will negatively affect other learners in the school, and especially those sitting for external exams. So the Commissioner of Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisoye, gave the directive in a statement yesterday, saying that reopening the school follows the review of the ongoing administrative interrogation into the viral sex tape that involved 5 students of the school. The state government justified its decision on the ground that the closure became necessary towards ensuring safety of the students and staff and to ensure unhindered investigation of the incident. The Education Ministry and other agencies in the state will collaborate with the school's Parents Teachers Association to provide psychological support for the affected students, and has also planned to launch the reviewed guidelines and protocols governing private and public school across the state within the next 1 month. So the statement added that an extensive assessment of the school's procedure, especially on external trips and excursions, is being made to identify safety gaps and prevent such incidents.
I was beginning to believe what they were saying until they said they were going to review that guide in 1 month in this country.
Okay, Elsie, that's one thing. But for me, I think the important thing here is that they reopen the school, because I was never in support of them closing down. How can you shut down the school across the state? It doesn't make any sense, because we have students in school. You know, why should an incident that happened outside the country affect other people who did not travel, who are in school, who are trying to sit to write their exams? So I think we try to do the things that seem the easiest in Nigeria. You know, levy fines against these people. When you make them pay for any act of misconduct by the school, you make them pay huge amounts of money, 20 million naira. They would ensure that they are always in check. You understand what I'm saying? It's just easy to shut down. And then there's talk about some people saying that shutting down means that they are creating rooms for bribery. So you shut the school down, the owners of the school come to you, they bribe you, you open the school. So what happens? All the other schools that have been shut down in recent time, what's happening? We just hear silently that they've reopened, and then business goes on as usual. So I think they need to sit up, the state needs to sit up and do their jobs well, because education is one thing that we are trying not to, drop Nobody wants to drop the ball.
Absolutely.
Yes, because if
In
we
private
lose that,
education,
even public,
Because
we
we
already
don't-
dropped the ball.
That's where I was coming from. Because when they want to drop the ball, I say, which ball are you
If
holding?
the state is shutting down schools at every point in time when things like this happen, then what's the future of education in Nigeria?
So I am reserving this conversation of this reopening of Chrisland to Wednesday because first of all, it was totally wrong.
In the first place, right?
It was totally wrong. We're having a
Yeah.
guest, that has worked closely with Lagos State government. I think they acted so rash.
Easiest path to follow. That's
it was
why
a
they
very
keep
lazy
doing it.
man. And I think they were trying to
Lazy
score cheap points that eventually backfired. Because
Yeah.
why would you think?
And then you don't even shut down the particular
You shut
school.
down
You
the
shut
entire
everything.
branch of
Come
the
on,
school.
what are you on?
No, that was
No.
a total no.
It's
And
crazy.
again, so that's why I want to have the conversation with an expert. So I'm not talking from a sentimental point of view, but for me, I felt that was a very wrong move. Very wrong.
Very wrong.
All right, so my story, I just could not find any story. So let me look for one. Our political aspirant, what's his name? Pius, has assured Nigerians that no cabal in Nigeria's seat of power would dictate to the country who the next president will be. So he was saying this in an interview. I think it was on a radio show or something. So he was talking about having to take a shot at the presidential seat. And he says whether cabal or no cabal, he's going to be going to giving it his first shot. And he thinks that with the new Electoral Act, people have more confidence, right, that their votes will count. So a lot of people, he's hoping that a lot of people will come
Why
out.
does Pius think that he wants to be president of Nigeria?
I don't even understand.
What did he do? Please, let's
talk.
No.
Bear your mind, bear it out.
You know, I've traveled and I'm at peace.
Yeah, relax.
So you're refreshed.
It's okay.
You know what
buy what's the media ticket? How much media ticket again?
No, PDP is cheap.
should
PDP
buy.
is cheap. But I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I'm just saying that, like, how so sweet. All of a sudden, some people just come and you think you are talking. We want to like.
Well, you know the one that shared the video of the guy. I don't know what he is right now because I didn't watch a lot of it. I don't want to use the tribe, but one human being in a video saying he wants to become the president that
Allah has told him. He's a Muslim cleric.
Who has God not even called to be the president?
You should have played the video.
We should have really.
That the gods have told him. Allah has told him that. I said, okay, everybody they use God now. It is well. We'll take a break now.
God, if you tell me tomorrow, you should be ready to gather money. Adamu said you should contribute his own form, 100 million.
Already. On that note, to take a break, when we come back from the break, we're going to be discussing why it's important that young people participate in politics, and we have a young candidate with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment. There's another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, according to NDI, today's youth need real opportunity to participate in political processes and contribute to practical solutions that advance development. Now, when given an opportunity to organize, voice their opinions, and play a meaningful role in political decision-making, young people consistently demonstrate their willingness and ability to foster positive, lasting change. They also become more likely to demand and defend democracy and gain a greater sense of belonging. Unfortunately, young people are often excluded or overlooked as political candidates. Politics is typically regarded as a space for politically experienced men, and while women are often disadvantaged in accumulating experience to run for office, young people are systematically marginalized because of their young age, limited opportunities, and projected lack of experience. So why and how can young people actively participate in politics? That's the question for tonight. Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-8038-4663. You can also tweet at us at WaysHowAfrica1 with the hashtag WaysShow. So I'd like to hear Manny and Elsie's thoughts quickly before I bring in our guests, right? Why do you think young people don't always, like people don't really pay attention when you hear like maybe a 22-year-old or a 18-year-old or 22-year-old, being actively, involved in political conversations? People don't take them seriously these days. They just feel like there's still time, you can just wait out. And, meanwhile, most of our leaders that we have today, a lot of them, were heads of states in their 20s and their 30s, right? So how come that attention, they don't muster that kind of attention when it comes to young people of today?
Okay, for me, I would say, like the president has said some years before, that we're dealing with the lazy youth. So they're very lazy, because I don't believe it's because of a lack of information or a lack of courage or what to say, because this generation, they actually call the Sorosoke generation, and the Sorosoke is a Yoruba terminology that says speak up. So they know how to speak up. They know how to come together. If they just understand their strengths meaning that their strength in number, and the people in this category that we call the youths, they are actually larger in number than the people on top, the older ones. So they have the strengths. Then they also have the mind, the innovative mind, so they can come out and create change. So for me, I just think it's the part of them that is lazy, laid back, that's what hinders them from coming out, not because they can't speak up, not because they are not informed. So we just need to speak to that lazy part of them and encourage them that yes, you can. Yeah, that's my opinion.
You say you're lazy.
Well, I think I'm just always I like to think that I'm a liberal-minded person, and for me, it might not be because everybody is at a point where we are looking for that messiah or that amazing leader. You might not look at it from my angle, but I think politics is a career, right? and leadership is something everybody should have in one way or the other. But politics is a career path, right? If a certain group of people are not interested in that career path, for me, I think they should be more interested in governance, right? To be understanding what is happening and who is leading us, and that process of being politically literate. They call it what? Politeracy right now. So I think that is the part that concerns me the most. But when it comes to young people in politics, even in the Western world, it is a career path. And when you begin to look at it as well, if you want to juxtapose the ages of the leaders and presidents of even progressive countries, I don't think at this point, like now, that you can go back and talk about your Obasanjo times and all that, but right now, this day and time, I don't think we have beyond, is it Macron now? What's his name? Aside him, they're all in that 60s, 70s, you know, that's where they are. So that's why sometimes I look at it, I just feel like, you know what, it's a career path. And there are still young people in that space that are doing amazing things. I know that our guest is one of them, right? And they're having conversations, people are paying attention. You see people like this girl on Twitter that is, she has an amazing handle now, got her popularity from Enters, what's her name, Reno, right? And people are paying attention to her a lot. And I don't think anybody's shutting her down and saying, we're not giving you attention. I just would want to see much more depth in her conversation. And she also really understanding that whether it was intentional or unintentional, or whether it was
she has the influence now.
based
So
on, some people say whether it's stomach infection, whatever it was, you are on that stage now. Can you have more depth? Can you deliver? Are you ready to really pick up the mantle?
That is the biggest gap.
Or are you one of those that are very soon, in fact, I'm hearing has jackpot or we soon jackpot, right? So it's, I mean, a lot of people will told that part. Some people will not told that part. But governance is what I know everybody, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're 18, 50, you should be interested in it. That's where I look at it from. But yes, I agree that there are a lot of lazy people. It's not just about politics. They want to speak up. They want to tell you what the problem is, but they're not ready to do the work. And I know that is happening a lot. But when it comes to politics, I think it's just a career path. If you're not interested, you're not interested.
All right, someone is saying, I'm watching you on Star Times in Plateau State. There's no audio tonight. I'm sure they'll sort that out. We're sorry about that. But let me bring in our guest. Okikiola Aisha Taiwo Jolupon is a young Nigerian, a politician, an entrepreneur, a chemist, and a community development advocate. She contested in the 2019 general elections for a seat at the State House of Assembly, Lagos State, and came third, right? And revealed to be the youngest to vie for a political position in Nigeria because she contested at the age of 23, I believe. And so, you know why I'm proud? First of all, she's a young person and she's a lady. You know, it's double stars, A++, and she's joined us live in studio. Hi. And for those that do not know, Okikiola, she's also going for the same position 2023. And we are rooting for you. We know you would finally get the seat because coming third, that's not a small feat, right? Coming third, so that's not a small feat. It means that now that the youth are woke.
It means that something is being done right.
Yes, now that the youth are woke, they understand that we need more representation. Definitely, everybody would go out and look out for her candidate. I don't believe in parties. Just look for the individual and vote. But let's come back to the conversation. We're talking about young people, right? Getting more young people in politics and like actively engage in politics. First of all, you started this political journey at a very young age. Why was it important for you to go into politics, right, at that young age?
So I started politics from school because we had so many things that was wrong with our department from the beginning, and we found out that writing letters and trying to reach out didn't get us what we needed. For example, we know how much the educational system in Nigeria, we always complain. So we decided to take up like the political positions in school and try to see how we can, because they gave us more audience as a political position holder than as a student. So that's how I went into politics. First, I had to go into financing, because we had so much money that was coming into the department but was not directed to the things that we needed it to go to. So I applied for the financial secretary and moved on as a general secretary. So when I got out of school, I studied chemistry in school, so I went into chemistry and continued from there. But while at it, I opened a non-governmental organization called the Okiki Foundation that was catering for vulnerable children, sort of mentoring them and also allowing them to understand the importance of education, especially at disadvantaged, areas. And so at one of the parties, one of my uncles said, "You seem like a very active person. Why don't you join politics?" I'm like, "I did politics in school." He said, "No, like there's real life politics." I said, "Oh, I didn't know about that." And then he said, "Okay, the things you do," because while at the party, I was complaining to him that I don't like the fact that when I want to do something for these kids, I always have to do it in so small numbers.
Scales.
Yes, because I feel like if I do it, there's a lot of impact to be made on these kids. So he convinced me that, okay, this would help you do that directly, and you can even go into taking care of youths, the elderlies and children all together. And I was like, okay, yes, I want to do it. And then he introduced me to the African Action Congress, Showore's party, and then that's how I started like the whole journey in politics. It was like a learning curve for me, but what I just remained as was myself. That was the only thing that kept me sane during the whole process, that okay, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. It came with a lot of backlash and a lot of female thing, young thing, and everything put together. But there were times that I came home and I started crying. I'm still young, I was just 23. So then my dad would be like, "Okay, are you done crying? Get back to work." Because he understood that I said so many things about dreams, but I didn't know how to keep on fighting for it. So even when I'm done, my dad's like, "Yes, you can still do it. Keep on, keep on keeping on. Go back to that same area that they told you this. You understand? And prove yourself non-stop." So that was like my driving force during the whole process. Sexual harassment was like the top game of it. First being young and then telling you that you're female. There was no female that got up there without doing all these things. I'm not talking about even people within the party, people outside party, donors, so many things. Try to use being female as a way to get
you
under
in bed,
yes, exactly, to say, okay, I know you want to get there. So that was like some sort of discouragement on that side, that I was like, with this thing that I faced, I don't think I want to run again. And I actually ran in 2021 for the councillorship position of Ajawo Estate, and it was more like a lesson to be taught, not for myself but to the community. My cousin wanted to run for that position in 2021, and we had the party thing go in place that we had chosen somebody since 5 years ago, and then we've done so much, because I was its campaign managers at that time. So we've done so many campaigns, and then we were so sure that we were going to get the seat, and then we got disappointed. So I picked up the party ticket, and I grew up in Ajawo Estate, where all the youths there, we all grew up together from primary school to secondary school. So that was my own campaign strategy. I recruited every single youth that I had, because I already had their love. So I recruited all of them, and I said, "See, we're not going to, we're going to do this together. You handle this, you handle this, you handle this. I trust you. You have power in each street. So I leave you to this street." I was the only one that had over 600 campaign polling agents and canvassers. So you know that in one street there's about 20 people already. We were that much in Ajawo Estate, and anybody we were bringing from outside, we know the person, because this is our hood. You get it? So in 2021 they came with their guns, and then they started threatening my party agents, and I told them that, okay, if it has gotten to the point where you see that they are about to do something deadly to you, please leave. And then we won almost all polling units, and then they went to one polling unit to put down all the votes and disrupt everything. So that was like the thing for us. But I ran under a new party, and for the first time in Ajawo Estate, that's the first time we were going to have another party apart from the APC and the PDP running for an election, especially for a local government election. So it was like a big feat for us in Ajawa State that, okay, so this is us youth, we are not lazy, you know, and we know what to do, even as much as, you know, when we all come together with our ideas, we can do something. And that was like another 2021 lesson for me. Like after moving on from 2019 was another lesson in 2021. And so 2023, I know that
prepared.
I'm very much prepared.
You know what? So, okay, I know the ladies are itching to ask questions, but we just want to go on a very short break. We'll just go out and come back in. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we are having an amazing conversation on, 2023 elections, and we're asking why young people must participate actively in politics. And we have with us Okikiola Taiwo Jolupo. She's a young, for those that care to, if you've not done the calculation yet, she's 26 and she's running for the Lagos State House of Assembly, right? We've not said under what party yet, but we'll come to that. So please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. So Elsie, you wanted to come in?
Yeah. So first, I mean, just listening to you talk about your family from your uncle to your dad, I want to say I'm really proud of them and kudos to them, because most times when you see someone at the forefront trying to do a lot of things, we sort of try to, not even just discourage, we forget about the backbone they have that help them come out to stand up and be courageous. So sorry, to be courageous. So I love you guys. Thank you so much. But I also want to ask, at that point where you were getting this whole bottlenecks in terms of you're a woman, you're young, as much as we are in support of young people going for office, on this table we are also very particular about the substance, right?
Quality.
How were you able to convince these people to let them know that I am here for the job, I know what I want, and I'm just going to go all out, whether I'm young or female? The point is that I'm a candidate, I'm an adult, and I am a candidate. How were you able to do that?
First off, it started with the fact that almost everybody knew me as a girl in Oshodi Solo. And my mom used to beat me when I was very little, because when she sends me on errands, I end up selling for the woman that is there for like 5-10 minutes before going back home. So they just knew me as, oh, this girl, and then I greeted everybody. So when I decided to run for office, most of the women were telling me that, no, don't go, these people are wicked people, they'll do this, they'll do that. Other women and men will ask me that, okay, you want to run, give us something. We need money. Where's the bag of rice? Where's this? And I tell them, okay, you know what? I'm not saying I won't give you this, but this same thing that you're asking me, ask the next person that is going to come and campaign with you. Or rather, let's assume that is a bag of rice the real problem, or your house rent. How do you struggle paying house rent? Try and the person that is coming to you telling you about road, about this, about things that they can't do, ask them that this is what directly affects me. Can you help me out with it? And then you hear what they have to say. I'm not here to tell you I'll do all that for you, but we can do it stage by stage together, because my job is to bring laws that help my community, my constituency.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to come tomorrow and say I'll do road this and this all together. It won't work for us, because there's not even enough allocation for all those things to happen. So if I feel like education is the biggest problem, at that point, how can we make that work? So those were the things that I told most of them. And then it also came to some of the women that was selling Gary. We have so many commercial areas in Oshodi Solo. And then when I go there, I'm talking to them about the cost of shops, because of the high-end customers that they have and companies that are being built in my area. People now have issues with shops because they're trying to bring everywhere down to build multinationals. So I also tell them that how can we make sure that you can even partner with these multinational companies by, I mean, if I sell provisions, I can as well buy from them, and then my shop does not have to go down. That's like wealth creation and circulation within my constituency. COVID-19 taught us that. So those were the things that I put up for them, that, okay, these are the things that I can bring together partnerships, sponsorships, scholarships. How do we do this? I already do it as a foundation, so I know my way around it. We don't need billions to do these things. We just need networking. So those were the things that I sort of sold to them in their language individually. To the Igbos, I went on to say, Igbo Kweno, we did some dancing, we did some singing, and then I went on to tell them the real fact that, okay, imagine the bill that you buy, see how much it costs. How do we make sure that this and this can work for you? So those were, I just related to people in different ways. The market people, the artisans, everybody in their own, you know,
language
in their own language. And that's was how I was able to like draw them all together. Yes.
All right, so Manny, quickly, then.
Okay, then we'll go on. Okay. Yes, this Sorosoke generation, your generation, before I even go into the question, well done. So you possess two traits that are very essential for this field you're in. You're courageous and you're very resilient. So you fall down, you get up and you move. I like that. Well done. So, but for your generation, we talk about this generation being the microwave generation. So they want to put in 1 today and they want 10 tomorrow. So they do not have the patience to wait out the process. How do you, especially when you talk about all the obstacles in your way now, you talk about people trying to attack you with guns, you talk about the men trying to take advantage of the fact that you're a woman, you talk about, you know, different things. How do you, what is the attraction for these youths when they hear about all the obstacles and all the negative things? What's the attraction for them?
First, I always say that these things don't only happen in politics. It happens everywhere. So, and I've also told women that I also, like, I have a group of women that I always talk to every time. I have some within the ages of 13 to 16. I have some within the ages of 20 to 25 to trying to teach them on, you know, how to tackle sexual harassment and all those things like that. So first thing I told them is that this thing has been going on even before I decided to join politics, even before I even came to life. So it doesn't mean that now that I've started, it's going to end. But now you have me because I can speak out. You know, so that's what I always tell them, that a lot of women go and they are silent about it. Me, I will scream and shout. And one thing I have, I mean, I can say that I have 4 extra people I can scream and shout to when something like that happens now. You understand? So I always tell people that, okay, as much as these things will still continue to happen, we can reduce it. Maybe not eradicate immediately, but then as we go onward, we reduce it. So many progress we have had over the years onto civilization was done by people stage by stage. As one dies, one moves on. So let us be that force now that does those things that need to. So it's not about we go in now, everything ends. But we are sure that as we move on, we are now the called. So we are now the ones doing it till.
Absolutely. So okay, so okay, let's come to your party, because your first outings were with unknown party, but I understand you are in a different party now. Can we discuss that and let us understand, you know,
the role
how
of
you plan to not allow, you know, because all those parties, they come with their baggage, how you plan for those parties to not corrupt the good intentions that you have, because we've seen people going to the offices, you know, because again, you need the big parties to be able to get that seat. So how do you plan to ensure that we can still call on you tomorrow and we can hold you accountable to say these are the things that were promised and we know that you are truly representing us, right, when you get to that seat?
So should I talk about the party I'm running under first? So now I'm running under the All Progressive Party, that's the APC.
What party were you running under before?
The AAC.
Okay.
That's Shore's party. So now I'm running under the All Progressive Congress, and this was.
And let me state here that they would not have given you the what's it called, the audience to be able to run if you did not
attempt to do it.
Yes.
The kind of what you were able to muster even on your own. So go ahead.
Nothing is lost.
So well, there's still a fight going on about who, because they have like someone that they are trying to push forward. So I'm also putting my own stand. I happen to be like the only female.
I'm sorry, before you go ahead with that, you know, we see our older politicians every time jumping from one party to the other, and we sort of are cringe-worthy and like, why, right? Do you care to just maybe briefly, before you go into what you're saying, why you had to, why it was necessary for you to move from this party where you had done a lot already to APC, that we can easily say everybody's pointing hands at now as the I don't know.
The poster
Yeah. First off, the AAC got a lot of waves after the 2019 election, and we had party meetings going on. The issue was from the local level, they now started recruiting people to protest rather than building party structure. So for someone like me that wanted to advance in that career, it sort of seemed like I was going this way, they were going this way. So for every meeting, it seems like we're having issues with where we want to go to and how what. So I had to move on from that.
Because you had clarity of your vision.
I had
Right.
clarity of my vision. So it just went on like that.
Yeah.
So now we are still battling the whole Progressive Congress so that I can vie for the position of the House of Assembly candidate for, Oshodi Solo. I feel like I already know what my community wants. I've been in Ajawe since I was 8. So I lived in every area in my constituency, and I've grown to know that place. So I feel like I can tell and I can relate to the problems that we're facing bit by bit. And the people are ready to work with me. So apart from the politics of buying delegates to become this, to become that, I feel like I have the love of the people at heart already. So for the delegates, it's a money thing for them. So I mean,
when you do not, if let's say they don't give you that ticket to run under the APC, would you still move to a different party where you have the capacity to get the ticket?
I have about 4 offerings right now that they are saying that they're ready to work with me and also bring me to,
because the goal is for you to get to that seat.
Yes, exactly.
So if APC is smart enough, they would give you the ticket so that you can run under the APC, because anyhow she's going to win the election. If I can say so myself.
Now you be the Kaba where Pius Ayim they talk about.
Let me take some comments, because they will accuse us that I would not take comments. Let's take some comments. Good evening, my beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying Ways. Concerning World Malaria Day, we need to be our brother's keeper by providing facilities for those who cannot afford them to keep them healthy. In politics, according to Sister Emanuela, that's money, she made mention of addressing the lazy aspects of the youth. That is what we should do. The youth are tired of the way things are, and the lazy aspect in their lives has been tackled for them to take action and act fast. Our dear sister Okikiola, you are a great woman, and we need people like you to change the system and make it right. Carry go. I am in total support for you. My name is Daniel Ilo, your Ways regular fan. We read your message today. All right, so one more message and I'll come to Elsie to take her message. My daughter is running for the State Assembly member in Bauchi. She has my full support, but you didn't put your name. Women should be ready for political power in 2023. Yeah, thank you so much for that comment. Go ahead, Elsie.
Okay, well, the first one says the youths are distracted. Vices have taken their life. Go to our universities. The discussions is about English Premiership clubs and not national issues. Eboluwa Adegboruwa San started as a students' union leader at Ife. Then, no name. Another one says, it's high time the younger ones and women inclusive in the running of Nigeria as a country. The older generation have played their own part. Let them get back home and relax. The heavy part of the voting strength comes from the youth and the women. The statistics are there. This country belongs to all of us, certainly not for some few. God bless you all at Ways. Bobby Kennedy Jalingo from Taraba State. Thank you
Manny,
so much, Bobby Kennedy.
I just have bits and pieces.
So it's one person, so just read
Okay.
everything.
I am watching you guys on Ways. There are many young people ruling in the Western world than the 70-year-old people. Macron is not the only young leader. We have Trudeau in Canada, and he's a young fellow. The old ones in Nigeria grabbed power when they were much younger and have held on to power since then. The first things for young people is to refuse to be used by the old cargoes as thugs or hitmen. Then it says, I am happy with Okikiola and her story.
Awesome, awesome. I think, Elsie, you have one final message, then we can then ask our final question. It's quite lengthy.
Okay, it says, young people of today are not lazy, but they seem they do not know their rights as citizens of this country, and even if they do not seem to know how to demand those rights from those who are already in governance of the country. Secondly, young people of today do not seem to have values they believe and want to promote and even die for in Nigeria political system. If they do, they will begin to stand for them. Finally, our educational system is very poor and bad in helping to create the needed awareness and knowledge the young people should have to prepare them to seek for political power earlier on in their lives. Young people in different places of the world can easily stand for their beliefs and push them until they actualize them.
So, as we wrap up the conversation, why should young people participate actively in politics? If you were to answer that question, what would that be?
My first answer would be why not? I mean,
I like that.
We're all in this. I think everybody should be involved in how our nation gets developed. If not, we are here. I mean, for example, somebody like me, I've never had the idea that one day I'll jackpot, and it's because the ideas that people give me that when you jackpot, you now seek for asylum, you now do this. I feel like
you're not appealing.
No, I should be invited to come and speak about how I'm developing Nigeria, not
absolutely.
I shouldn't be running away, because at the end of the day, you're running away. You still claim to be Nigerian. You can't be any other person.
Yes.
So, how first can we be better Nigerians, that we can be better people? I mean, all over the world, Nigerians are doing great things. We hear this one is mayor of here, mayor of it. So we have capacity. And then knowing that in the next few years, we're going to be we already are the major people, contributors of the GDP and everything all put together. So why shouldn't we be involved in politics? There's politics at work, there's politics even in the Premier League that people talk about. There's politics everywhere. So you should be involved one way or another.
Yeah.
It's just that I feel like everybody should now learn to sort of be more enlightened and informed and how to implement it. We say so much, but no action plan. So I always say that, when do we get to work? Sometimes when we talk, I'm like, so when are we doing this thing? You know what I'm saying? It's enough talk. People
and
come
again,
and
I don't
say,
even believe that you have to be 100% ready for you to run for office. You can get there and learn on the job. I mean, there are so many things that you can do.
You cannot even really be too prepared. I feel like when you get into the office, you now start to see certain issues that they had buried. Is when you get up, because of caucuses and all those things. When you get up there, that's when they open books and tell you that, okay, so this is what was going on. But I still always say that no matter how much we complain that, things don't go on, there's always a certain allocation that goes into your constituency. Now, it is very dependent on the person in that office to say, I want to do it or I don't want to do it. As much as they say they pay Baba Sokwe or whatever this thing, if you put 5 million naira, for somebody like me that runs an NGO, I can tell you what 50,000 naira can do. So if I put 5 million naira in an office, I know.
Absolutely. Sincerely, these old men in politics have woefully failed Nigeria. Let the women take over. Maybe then we shall see the change they promised. Austin from Delta State. We ran out of time. They are screaming in my ear. We have to go. But thank you so much, Okikiola. We had a fantastic conversation. Manny, we'll ask the question behind cameras. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Elsie. We had a fantastic conversation. I hope you enjoyed the show as well as we did. Please look out for Okikiola. Please. Yes. We are already showing you our candidates. Me, I know they hide. They can come and carry me. It's fine. Now, before we go, ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all the conversations and engagements online. And remember to like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, here it is again. One of the penalties of refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. It's as simple as that. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Thank you.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
There are two words I think shouldn't go together: sibling and rivalry. Siblings presupposes relationship, it's family, brother, sister. Then rivalry, unhealthy competition. How can they go together? And yet the reality is that there is sibling rivalry, and there has always been from the time of Cain and Abel. And so I ask myself, how did it arise? Abel was a different kind of person from Cain. And the suggestion is really that he was loved more. So did that create an undertone that led to Cain taking his life? But Abel himself was also a generous person. So it comes from two sides: who we are and how we're treated. This is what we're going to be talking about today in the lounge: sibling rivalry. The usual, dare I say, suspects are here. Ebu, Omoye, Saudat. But we have a guest today, Shirley Ann Bello. And she has 11 siblings. So how do they live together? Amifoma Idigwe. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the lounge. It's TW Conversations, and you know that we talk about things that don't necessarily concern women, but people. And sibling rivalry is a very, very tricky subject. It's very sensitive. And I know that growing up, we knew the people we considered to be mommy or daddy's favorites. And I don't know how that shaped us. And that's why we're here to have this conversation, so that we can reflect on those things together. So Shirley Ann, you have 11 siblings. And you are the fourth.
Yes,
so it means you have 6 other siblings, 6 younger siblings, which is more siblings than I have. Mm-hmm. And I know what it was like growing up with that many. I have 4 siblings, right? Tell us a bit of what growing up was like.
Well, I would say it was like every other regular family, to be honest with you, you know, because when people hear so many siblings, 11, everybody's like, how do you live? Do people climb the car and all that? Do you have space inside the car? How many cars you use and all that? It's not that, honestly, it's not that scary. I would say it's like every other normal family, maybe just twice, but it's the same thing. Contrary to what people believe, we're actually all really close, very, very close. So growing up, we used to do a lot of things together. We were each other's friends. Of course, everybody had their own friends, but we did mostly everything together. So we just grew up with that togetherness mentality, that whole family thing. So yeah, that's basically that. I don't.
What causes rivalry? Yeah, what causes rivalry amongst siblings?
I think that first of all, we're born a certain way. Some people are more sensitive than others. Some are more jealous than others, or envious, or whatever word you want to apply. Some need more love and care than others, and that's from...
I didn't need no love and care. I thrived on no love and no care.
And so one day I said to my mama, Mama, I know you love me, but I want you to show it some more, please.
You're not serious. So there's one, your own side, and then there's the side of how people treat you or how you perceive they're treating you. I think it's easier in a family with lots of people for there not to be obvious favoritism. I think that in a family with just 2 or 3 people, maybe it's more noticeable. I suspect. That's what I think.
Rivalry normal?
Is it normal?
Is it a normal thing?
But it has to be normal. They're people, first of all, before your siblings. Okay. You're people. Yeah. And so you have reactions and emotions like other people. It's just that because you're blood relatives, we think that the things that apply to other people shouldn't apply to you, but it will. And if it's a polygamous home, then there's an introduction right there of we're slightly different and competition. The basis of rivalry is competition. It's just, it's unhealthy. It's like, I have to be better than you. And so there's that competition that goes on. And sometimes parents themselves promote it. Because they think it's the way to make their children competitive in the real world. And so they do it by giving gifts to particular ones when you've done well. And so you create something that is often unhealthy.
So I've been thinking about my siblings. I have 2 older brothers, an older sister, then a younger brother. And I'm checking all the relationships. And so my sister and I are right next to each other. There's 2 years between us. And I really wanted to be like her a lot, in a lot of ways. I wanted to be like her. And we just, I don't know how, I don't know what my parents did or didn't do, but we just never compared ourselves to one another. However, there were times when I felt treated badly because, you know, for example, as a middle child, you're never correct, you know. If I had an argument with my older sister, then I had no respect. But if I beat my younger brother for being disrespectful or something, I was taking the law into my hands. Or if we had, an argument, my father would say, for example, my dad, I remember once, my younger brother said to me, I was an idiot or something like that. And I go stomping to my dad's room. I said, Daddy, Nosa called me an idiot. My dad said, my dad is the king of sarcasm. My father says, are you an idiot? I said, no, I'm just asking you a question. Are you an idiot? Of course I'm not an idiot. I said, so why are you angry? Is that all? No, I expected the rod to come down. And one day I remember crying to my mom, when am I ever right? When am I ever correct? When is it never my fault? You know, if it's this one, then this is it. And if it's no, sir, then... And my mom... Yeah, my mom just never, paid me. She just ignored me. But that happened, and we've grown up and we're adults, and it's not a big deal. Like, we know how to handle one another. But I don't know how. So this is a normal. I imagine that this scenario, this picture I've painted is a normal situation in families. Yes. Where does it now turn rancid? When does it now become...
It does turn rancid for so many people, because I know that scenario and how it has damaged a lot of children when they grow up, especially when we don't validate our children.
Yes.
Because every child wants to be validated. The first person that should love you, the first person that should see you for who you are as an independent person are your parents. The moment they deprive you of that, you are going to search for it for the rest of your life. You will just be looking for validation here and there. You will never be enough. And some parents, so for me, sibling rivalry, if it's toxic, is the parent's fault. You have to, I know having 12 children or 5 children, it's very difficult for you not to have a favorite, especially when it's that you have that one child that you don't have to wake up and that one just goes to brush their teeth, get ready for school, and you have that one that you have to really threaten before they get up, so that happens. Then you have one that maybe looks like you and has taken the good part of you, and you look at yourself like, yes. Then you have that one that's taking your bad habits, and you hate it because whenever the person does that, it reminds you of your weakness, But then again, that is an individual child. And if that child is not validated, the person is going to hate or not like their sibling, and that is going to affect that child. And it does affect.
A situation where the children are competing for the parents' attention or love, that tends to happen. And when that happens, it means that, it's like a rat race, if you knock that person down, and so you have a chance to help your sibling and you don't. Because if you help them, then they shine, and it rubs off your shine.
But what happens is, I think that also comes from parents comparing children.
Yes.
Okay? So in my situation, I have 2 boys. I always call them the gentleman and the joker. I promise you, this is what they're like. The older one is very proper. My friends would always say to me, Ebon, you just switch when you're talking to your children. Like, he's very proper. He does everything. He's the one that will wake up, brush his teeth, do the other. But the other one, he's a joker. He just laughs at everything. He makes everyone laugh. And if you can't see those 2 as individuals and celebrate the richness and the beauty in each of their personalities, then it's going to be like, why can't you be more than like the other one? And that causes rivalry. When you're comparing children and you're saying, why don't you be like this person or that, that causes rivalry.
Yes, I think personality has a lot to do with, whether or not siblings would compete against each other and all that. One thing you find is parents don't necessarily have to spend the equal amount of time with every single child, because you find that every single child has a personality trait that either requires you to spend some time with them or not. There's some children that are really independent and can do 1 or 2 things on their own, and they don't even need that much time. They don't need that parent's attention for that period of time. But there's some children that actually need some extra support or some extra guidance. And so as a parent, I think you have to be able to know who needs your time at a particular time and who is good the way they are.
But the problem I have with that is that I think it's a bit of a fallacy, because even children who appear independent need love. Yes. And even those who do, and I'm not talking about love, I mean, they need that attention. They may not appear to. And I say that because there's some children who are independent, yes, but they need the validation that comes from an older person. But they'll always get on with it, and they'll always leave you to tend to the others.
Definitely.
But it's a burden.
Yeah.
And there's a tendency to load that child with responsibilities. And that child will feel that, no, it's too much. And they may not voice it. They may not know to voice it, but it'll come out at some point, because what it means is that they're not being allowed to be enough of a child. And that has its own consequences. And there are resentments that might simmer. Oh, you have more time for the others. Because I do things on my own, you think I don't know enough. And I liked what you said about your children and what you call them, because I have 2 sons as well. And I call one a country gentleman. I mean, he's the kind who can live in the country and walk the dog and have elbow patches, on his, yes. And the other one is a city gentleman, bowler hat and umbrella, go to the men's clubs, you know what I mean? But they're just 2 different kinds of people. And they need to be pushed in different ways. I always say that parenting is individual. It can't be a general rule. So I admire your mother, because parenting is individual. A particular way of parenting for a particular child. And that is why I think there's still being rivalry. When parents don't recognize that and treat the children as if, you're all the same, there's no template.
Okay, so what I mean by time doesn't mean that you wouldn't spend time with a child. Okay, so for instance, if there's a child who knows how to... an example with your siblings. Okay, so... I have a sibling that's if I have a sibling that's really good at math, for instance. Now, if he needs to solve a problem, for instance, if he needs help with a problem, my mom would help him with the math problem. But my sister might not be as good as math as my brother. So she would need more time from my mom than my brother who is really good at math. So that's actually what I mean with time. You know, it's not, like, she won't need to spend 3 hours, as much time. So that's what I mean when I talk about time.
I hear you, but I'm talking about time in a different context. You know what I mean? Because this time you're talking about is different. It's activity-bound.
Break. And we'll come back to delve into this subject even deeper. Don't go away, it's TW Conversations. Welcome back to the lounge. It's TW Conversations, and we're talking about sibling rivalry. Now, here's a story, and this is a sharp deviation from the point, and I would like us to find our way back to sibling rivalry. Here's a story. A friend of mine talked about how when her mother was terminally ill, she was a primary caregiver at about 15 or 16, and she was alone. And she was making all those hospital visits. She was caring for her mother. We're talking toilet runs, bathing, and all that as a child, you know. And her mother had siblings who lived in the same city, who never came to help. And she, you know, she was very resentful. And she was, so, you know, it was a group of people in a conversation. And I was thinking, would there ever be a time when my sister is so sick and Omorefe will be left to care for her on her own? And like, how would my relationship with my sister or any of my brothers deteriorate so far that I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't even be, not even say I'm not able to, I wouldn't be there. And somebody said something that struck me. He said that your relationship with your siblings is something you have to cultivate the same way you cultivate your friendships. The fact that you're born in the same family doesn't mean that you're going to care for each other just because you were raised, because you're all different people. And he made the point that you had to actually actively work at being even friends with your siblings. Who agrees with that?
That is very true.
I absolutely agree.
I agree. You can make certain assumptions based on blood relationships, but after that, there is a relationship you need to develop. There's some siblings who don't like each other.
True.
You know, it's not about rivalry. They just don't like each other. Because
they're used to each other. You've known each other all your lives.
It doesn't matter. I have two girls, and I don't know if this sibling rivalry thing is different where you have the children of the same gender or from different gender. But I have two girls, and when they fight, I always consciously tell them that Jasmine loves Raima, Raima loves Jasmine. I tell them, I consciously tell them, so that they would know. And I tell them that you are blood. You must look out for your sister more than somebody else. You know, if you don't, you have to tell them. No, you love them. I have to tell them all these things because I'm not the only one bringing them up. They're going to see other things outside. So I have to tell them that you have to love your sister. You will love your sister. She might have done something wrong to you right now, but you love your sister and she loves you. And you're supposed to look out for you. So when they're going out, I call them, apart from, don't make sure nobody touches you here, don't go to this corner here. Look out for your sister. Make sure that you get her food to eat. Make sure that if you look for her, you don't find her, you look for her wherever she is. You love her. You must protect her, you must fight for her.
But aren't you putting pressure on the older
I don't care what the pressure is. No, you must. Two of them. I tell the younger one and the older one. You must love.
I even have an issue. You can bring your children up that way, and you're a very wealthy parent, and then you die, and they start struggling and fighting and killing each other over property. What's that? How does that happen? So were they pretending before? Because they seemed they were supposedly close, but all of a sudden, which means that at the end of the day, personal self-interest sometimes. So we must teach our children to be generous of themselves to their siblings and to be content with what they have. I mean, I know there are parents whose children don't know what they have because their parents don't want a problem later on, or that's why there are wills, because there's an understanding that there may be issues.
Yes.
There are families where, when the parents die, all of a sudden somebody becomes an ogre and wants everything and doesn't want to give the others anything. And that's why they're administrators. But you have to ask yourself, so what happened? Weren't they brought up together? Weren't they brought up closely with values? And there are siblings who don't see each other often, but whenever there's an issue, they will come together to solve that problem.
Who is going to do that? Whose role is that? Is it the parents? Is it the parents that are supposed to make sure that happens?
Eventually, there's only so much parents can do after a while. After a while, it's your responsibility to develop a relationship with your siblings, and which means that there's a sense of, with siblings, there has to be the love that is beyond what I want.
Yes.
It's not always there. So what is it that'll put it there? Yes. What is it that we can do to put it in our children?
Okay, so in my case, I think the parents have a huge role to play with bringing the family together and bringing in that love. Because, truth be told, at the end of the day, siblings will fight, siblings will have disagreements, but it is that love that binds them together.
Okay. Tell me about any type of rivalry that, I mean, you've talked about how you are all each other's best friends, but I'm sure that you weren't best friends all the time.
Of course.
What are some instances where you've disagreed, and how have you resolved those conflicts?
Okay, so, well, first of all, there are girls and there are boys. I think there's one instance where maybe if we want one sibling wants to watch TV, for instance, maybe wants to watch a football match, and then the girls want to watch something else. So it's always like, okay, it's always like who will get to the TV first, And then you find out, okay, the boys always get to the TV first, and they have to watch their match first, and the girls are like, no, we want to watch our musical, or we want to watch our movie. 6 boys, 6 girls.
Wow, even.
Yes. It's an even battle. So yeah, before I continue that statement, I actually want to say something. So from when we were young, from when we were small, my parents actually have always tried to create this togetherness with everyone. My dad always liked us going out together, doing things together. And my mom always taught us how to share things. So for instance, when she comes back from work and she buys something, she'll be like, oh, bring a flat plate and knife. And everybody knows that, wow, something is coming, we're all going to share something. So she brings it and then she shares and all of us take a piece. And then sometimes if someone wants more, someone can say, okay, I'll just give you some of my own or something. So from a young age, we learned to share things. And then even if we have disagreements about who has this and who has that, my mom will be like, okay, do you know what? Can you use this for a while and then let this person use it? So basically, from a really young age, we were taught to kind of have compassion for each other, and then coupled with the fact that we used to hang out a lot together. So back to the football and the musical, or football and movie. So in that instance, we learned to come to an agreement. Okay, we know that 7 o'clock is your match. So we'll try not to disturb you. We'll try our very best not to disturb you. But that after this match, we must watch our own movie, So yeah, so there are instances like that. But when you kind of have grown with this innate, will I say compassion or love? I just like saying love. It's more of love because at the end of the day, you will definitely fight. But what still kind of stops it or brings you together or makes you try to reason, be realistic or whatever is, okay, this is my brother, this is not my friend.
But what it means is that you're saying that the principal responsibility lies with the parents to create that environment.
Well, I think from the beginning, I think from the beginning, the parents have to start.
I agree.
Yes.
But I'm saying the next step I'm going to, because we have to be realistic. We wouldn't be having this conversation if there wasn't sibling rivalry.
Of course,
and if something didn't cause it.
Yes.
Life then happens.
Yes, of course, definitely.
Life then happens, and then you remember the times when you felt you were hard done by one sibling or the other, by one parent, and then how can it be dealt with?
As an adult.
As an adult, I think
how can it be dealt
with? It also
with?
depends on you as well, as an individual. First of all, people are different, personalities are different. You have to understand who you are as a person. You have to understand who your sibling is as a person. If you're an extrovert and you like to talk and you like to, you like people around and you like, I don't know, how will I put it? And then you have a sibling who's mostly to himself, and you're definitely going to have clashes.
What I'm going to say to that is, again, I'm playing forgive me for using that expression, devil's advocate, right?
Yes, yes.
It's an assumption that I'm thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it, I'm just living my life every day. And there are these issues that bother me.
I'm not going to
how am I going to deal with it? Because the truth is, there is a lot of sibling rivalry, even in families that seem to be near perfect.
Yeah. Yes, of course, yes.
So what is it we're not getting?
I would suggest that if a person who's fully grown, has no, need to report to their parents' authority and whatnot. I think that it's a good idea to have a conversation with your siblings about how you feel. I feel daddy always, for example, I feel daddy always paid you a lot more attention and he neglected me.
I totally agree.
I think that mommy gave you more money. I feel that you had all the, and I think that you were born at a time when this, and when I was born, this is how, and this is why I don't.
And I totally resent it.
Yes, I don't like it.
Very difficult because I know that a few months ago I was having a conversation with my sister. We're 2 girls and 3 boys, and I consider myself a middle child because I'm the second. The firstborn is a girl. I'm the second girl. Then I have 3 boys after me. So I see myself as they now have their firstborn, and they now have the 3 boys that they want. So I'm just there,
the extra thumb.
trying to, I'm here, notice me, So, and I remember I used to tell my sister, I'm like, they treat me differently, don't you see? She's like, no, nobody treats you differently. And about 2 months ago, we sat down, we now had this conversation, and we were not really close because I really was the middle child because I saw things and I used to pull away, So it's either I'm hiding behind the curtains or I'm doing stuff, because I just didn't want my mom to be upset with me, so I'd rather not be where she would see me because I used to feel as if every little thing she'll pick on me. And what if I pick this and she shouts, if the other person picks it, she doesn't even see it. So I used to overblow. So 2 months ago when I was having a conversation with my sister and we're now reliving so many things that happened and she was like, oh my God, I never really saw it that way. No wonder this, no wonder that. So she now saw it differently,
Let's talk about the musicians, P-Square. They're twins. They're twins. And a lot of the time I ask, this must be a PR stunt. I don't want to believe that it's actually true, but these things do happen.
I think in that scenario, they've grown up. You're in an enterprise. And I think what has happened there can happen with any 2 friends who go into business and then get married. I think that is where the dynamics change.
With their family.
No, they're there. They're in a business.
Third parties involved? Or do you think they themselves they're about grown themselves? Do you think? Third parties make a difference.
Absolutely.
The whole equation.
The
when siblings get married, depending on who they get married to, things can change, and that's the truth of the matter.
That's the truth.
And then things that you didn't talk about, which is why what you said about talking about it is really important. I'm the second child, but the first girl. And I always felt that I had more responsibility than the others to do things and to make sure things happened and that everybody was taken care of. And I remember at some time just thinking to myself, this is just too much responsibility right here. But the truth is that if you're the responsible child, the lot falls to you. And if you're the irresponsible child, you're the one who doesn't get given any responsibilities. It's like even at work. If you do the work well, they're going to give you more work. If you don't do, they won't give you. So at the end of the day, I think 1, conversation, 2, allow that indeed they're all different. And allow that somebody can love you without being the same as you. And that you can love a person you don't like, and you can like a person you don't love.
So what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that I think really we should all learn to talk to each other. We should find a way to say it when it happens and not let it just fester. Yes.
Oh, wow, this is so... Yeah, for me, I think that as parents, I think it really does start there. And as parents, we need to focus on what's important when we're raising our children. Allow them to focus on the things that matter, which is, the bond with each other, and not so much material things. Because I think when that comes into play, it really brings, a lot of rot as well.
I want to talk about the parents as well. We should validate our children. Let them learn compassion, but also look at them as individuals. You treat them as individuals. And very importantly, see them and validate them. Everybody, you love them and you validate them and you say it, let them hear it, let them know it without a doubt. That you see them, you love them, you validate them.
Yes, I think so too. I think from the beginning, it's the parents that, actually have most of the work to do. It depends on what you instill in your children. If you instill the right virtues in your children, then, it eventually sticks on. They say the first 1,000 days of a child is really important. So if you start early, then you find that in the long run, when they get older, things like contentment, like you said, the material things are actually what does affect sibling rivalry. Most of the time, you're sharing TV, you're sharing bathroom, you're sharing so many things, you know. So I would say if the parents could start early, the children, it would be easier for the children to.
This is so serious. It's a serious matter.
Serious because it's a really sad thing. It's not something you want to see.
Especially when it comes to sharing of, maybe properties and,
So we'll come to the end of this conversation. I'll say this, as an adult who is in that, situation, I'd say, remember that family is a big deal, and the place that you should feel the most safe is with family. So mend those broken bridges and be friends with family. Imagine how beautiful that would be. Thank you for watching Sibling Rivalry. We'll continue this conversation on the social gram, So all the handles are right here on the screen. Talk to us. Let's have this conversation all over again. Take care. Bye. Bye.
On Plus News now, Nigeria joins the world to mark World Malaria Day. INEC pledges commitment to support persons with disabilities in 2023 general elections. More than 160 people killed, 98 others injured in tribal clashes in the western Darfur of Sudan. Good evening, I am Loretta Chiogo. This is News Now. The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has appealed to the federal government to increase its funding for malaria to reduce the burden of the disease and save lives. The Chairman, Committee on Infectious Diseases for NMA Lagos, Dr. Japhet Olubogi, said the burden of malaria disease in the country was high, but that it could be eradicated with consolidated efforts. Olubogi appealed to the federal government and the state governments as well to reignite momentum in the fight against the disease by deepening funding and partnership with international non-governmental organizations. The Edo State Primary Health Care Development Agency has called on stakeholders in the state to increase investment in healthcare in order to enhance the fight against malaria. The agency's health education officer, Irene Wabo, was speaking in Benin City to mark the 2022 World Malaria Day with the theme Harness Innovation to Reduce Malaria Disease Burden and Save Lives. She said the fight against malaria should be one of the greatest priorities in the country, while urging stakeholders to make more effective use of currently available tools for the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of the disease, particularly in countries hardest hit by the disease. Meanwhile, as part of efforts to commemorate the day, the Association of Civil Society on Malaria Control, Immunization and Nutrition, ACOMIN, has conducted free malaria tests on residents of Bakungu community in Minna, Niger State. The state coordinator of the group, Kalejaye Olasukomi, said that it was collaborating with the state government to provide free health care services to the public. And aside from the free malaria tests, the group also conducted blood pressure tests, sugar level, HIV, AIDS, and distributed face masks. The world commemorates Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease and examine efforts towards the prevention, treatment, control, and the elimination of the disease. According to World Health Organization, over 600,000 deaths from malaria were reported in Africa in 2021. However, as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark this year's World Malaria Day, the Director of Medical Services of the Hospitals Management Board in Kano State, Dr. Suleiman Hamza, said that stakeholders in the health sector need to have a central coordination in the war against malaria. We will bring you that report as we go ahead in the bulletin. Meanwhile, the Assembly of Health Ministers of ECOWAS region have announced that Nigeria and other African countries would get access to the newly developed malaria vaccine by the first quarter of 2022. The Health Minister of Ghana, who is also the chairman of the Assembly, Dr. Kweku Agyaman Manu, disclosed this to journalists at the 22nd Ordinary Session of the Health Ministers in Abuja. Sea Dogs, a non-governmental organization, has embarked on free medical and eye surgery services for the less privileged in Owerri, the Imo State capital. The organizer of the outreach, Ikenna Obagbulam, who said that the aim was to help those with eye problems with no means, but with no means for treatment.
We intend to assist and support members of the society, and in such drive we have reached out to people who require these services. This is one of many interventions that we do as an association. However, we prioritized vision this year because amongst the 6 senses, this is the most important. If you cannot see, you cannot do anything for yourself. So the priority to ensure that we can work on preventing blindness was a big priority, and we settled for that this year.
We are here to check their eyes, give glasses, do free surgery for the first 20 people. Cataract surgery, pterygium, these are things that can cause avoidable blindness. Then we're also checking for glaucoma. Glaucoma is the leading cause of irreversible blindness worldwide. And the safest way to avoid that is to screen, check the eyes, and when someone has glaucoma, start treating early. Because once it has gotten so bad, to the point of the person losing vision markedly, there's nothing anybody can do about it.
In every 100 people you see, 10 or 15 have eye defects. And you know there are vagaries of these defects. Some don't even know they have it, but they know they have challenges. Some can't stand the brilliance of the sun, some can't do all these are defects. But when we notice it is when it impairs your seeing or reading. In this situation, we start running helter-skelter.
One of the beneficiaries of the exercise was full of appreciation.
I want to come and examine my eyes and have a solution to it, which they have done, and I have solution. I have to thank God for this organization who are making it possible.
Everything is purely free of charge. No charge, nothing, not even card fee or whatever. Well, I thank them. It is God that rewards. I pray that God will reward them and let them continue with this. By this, they will have, the society will be okay, better off.
The news continues after this short break.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
The World Health Organization, WHO, has declared that Nigeria recorded more than 100,000 suspected cases of cholera in 2021, its highest in recent times. WHO's country representative in Nigeria, Dr. Walter Mulumbo, corroborated the figure at a training session on oral cholera vaccine request and campaign planning organized by the Global Task Force on Cholera Control, GIFCC. Mulumbo acknowledged the role of GTFCC, and its country support platform CSP in the global roadmap for cholera control, especially in endemic countries. The GTFCC is an agency of the WHO. In Ekiti State, the government has resolved not to relent in its efforts against COVID-19. The state's commissioner for health, Oyebanji Filani, flagged off the one-stop surge program to scale up COVID-19 vaccination in the state. He said the state would collaborate with other organizations to get people living with HIV included in the expanded vaccination plans.
What our partner, the US CDC, is doing to support us to ensure we have additional teams, which is the surge capacity, which will go to multiple sites across 10 LGAs to rapidly vaccinate as many people as possible. We are very grounded as a state. Yes, we recognize that we're in the political season, but we're a very grounded state. We recognize the environment in which we are working in and the unique circumstances. And if you see all our people out there, you recognize that they're all still wearing their face mask, ensuring that they manage the situation. It's probably a bit limited to not have people around, but if you also know, based on the PSC, which is the Presidential Steering Committee guidelines recently, is that they've relaxed some of the rules. So we're happy with that, and we believe that even with the political campaign, that we can manage COVID.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has arrested a suspected billionaire drug baron behind the 3 billion naira tramadol deal allegedly involving Abba Kyari-led intelligence response team. Afam Malison Emmanuel Ukatu's arrest followed months of surveillance and evasion of arrest, according to the agency. Ukatu is the chairman of Malison Group of Companies. He was arrested on board a flight to Abuja at Lagos Airport on April 13. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo said that it would be an injustice if it did not contest the 2023 election with his vast experience in the last 7 years in office. Osinbajo, who said this when he visited Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State in Akure, hailed President Muhammadu Buhari's open-mindedness in delegating to him serious tasks that had aided his experience. He said that God puts people in power, but noted that it would be a betrayal to his country for him to retire with all his wealth of experience and exposure in government. The governor of Rivers State and PDP presidential aspirant Nyesom Wike has asked PDP delegates in Adamawa State to vote for him in the party's primaries scheduled for May 27th and 28th, as he's the only one with the capacity to defeat the incumbent APC in the 2023 general elections. Wike, who was in Yola on the mission, told delegates that it was the only chance PDP had to reclaim its supremacy against the ruling APC, and that failure to achieve that would bring an end to the existence of PDP in the country. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has given its commitment to providing strong support for persons with disabilities, PWDs, ahead of the forthcoming 2023 general elections. INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman of the Outreach, Professor Kunle Ajayi, maintained that the non-negotiable minimum of a credible and democratic electioneering process is its ability to grant all stakeholders the access to participate in the electoral space. He said trainings are being organized to refresh the minds of officers with long experience at the disability desk of their responsibilities as frontline implementers of the Commission's PWD's policies. A coroner sitting in Ikeja Magistrates Court in Lagos has banned journalists and other interested parties from covering or witnessing the inquest on the death of a student of Dowen College, Lagos, Sylvester Oromoni Jr. The registrar of the court announced that the hearing was mainly for lawyers while sending away newsmen. It was learned that the decision was taken due to the appearance of some senior students of Dowen College accused of beating the deceased to death, who were also in court to testify. We're now being joined by a legal practitioner, Mr. Evans Ofeli and Tunde Ladele. Mr. Ofeli and Mr. Ladele, good evening to both of you. Good evening to you, Mr. Ofeli, and to you, Mr. Ladele.
Good evening, I can hear you. Good evening, I'm Dr. Ladele. I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on News Now tonight.
You're welcome.
So I'll go with you first, Mr. Evans Ofeli. We've just heard a story, a report about a court sitting in Lagos, that's the coroner inquest court, barring journalists and other people from participating in the hearing of the inquest on the death of Sylvester Oromoni, the student who was killed in Dowen College. Now, looking at the law, what is applicable in this sense? Is it okay to ban journalists from it, especially with a country that has signed its Freedom of Information Bill?
Well, yeah, the Freedom of Information Bill is actually a law that gives everyone, not journalists, unfettered access to information, and then compel institutions, persons and authorities to ensure that they make this information available on demand. But the case in question is quite different. Under the court system, when a case has to do with a family issue, okay, and a child is involved, how be it now dead, to protect the child, okay, from the general public. It's what we see in court every day, the family courts and the special courts where children are involved. The courts usually we put premium on the uttermost interests of the children. Whatever the court wants to do, the court must ensure that the child is protected. Because if you look at the Child Rights Act, the underlying principle that binds the Child Rights Act from start to finish is the protection of the Nigerian child. In this case, the child is demised, okay? But the law still applies. You don't open the floodgates of journalists, people from the entire public to flood the court when an issue that has to do with a child is being handled in a court of law. It is not allowed. By the rules of the court, the rules of the family court of Lagos State, you know, the protection of the rights and interests of the child supersedes every other consideration. I know that it is a constitutional right of journalists to get information as provided under Section 21 of the Constitution. I know that. I also know that it is a right of everybody, that the court is a public place, that everyone can actually go to the court and then, but when it has to do with the child, there are special considerations that must be taken into, recognizance of, and that is that we're allowing the entire public, journalists or whoever, will jeopardize the purpose for which the court has convened the hearing.
there is always a restriction. That is why they ask the lawyers involved, the lawyers on record, to come in. See, the truth is that the journalists will still get whatever information they want to get from the lawyers of both sides after sitting.
Okay, so while
the most important thing is that the child is protected.
Okay, so whilst I understand the situation surrounding this particular kind of case, constitutionally, speaking about the law, this effort to guard and guide the children, the children's affairs, also contradicts the journalist's job, which is to gather information. Of course, this is a big news that everyone wants to know per second of information, updated information about it. So then what happens? How then does the journalist, do his or her work while trying to gather this kind of information and already barred?
The journalist will still do his work or her work. It is not about the journalist here. If you look at the Child Rights Act, it's not about the journalist. Even if you look at the Constitution too, it is not about the journalist. The Constitution also have made copious rights to protect the Nigerian child, okay? To protect them from dangerous exposure, and then to protect them from being treated in ways that are dehumanizing, to protect them from a lot of rights are capped under you see, the right of the journalist to have access to information, no right is actually absolute, because there are instances and situations where you have an exception undergirding the right to have the law is not that the journalist must be there in the court room where a child is being, where an issue that has to do with the child is being dealt with. The law is that the journalists have a right to hold government accountable to the citizens, okay? And in this case, the restrictions are placed for the purposes of protecting the right of the child, giving the right of the child an uttermost consideration, far and above every other subsidiary rights, okay? Now, that is why when the issues of custody is being handled in courts, the issue of child rights is being handled in court, child welfare and the rest of it, you find out that they allow only counsel who are registered in the case. Lawyers on record are the ones that sometimes they sit in chambers. They sit in chambers, the magistrate or the judge will sit in chambers to protect the child from the public, okay? It's a normal practice to lawyers, except for journalists who perhaps, maybe some of them are witnessing this for the first time. The right of the child supersedes whatever rights or consideration that you place aside or beneath the case in question. And that is why we must understand that while the Constitution gave the journalists the right to hold government accountable to the people, it also gave children the right not to be unnecessarily exposed, okay? The right to be protected, the right to a name, the right to education and all that. They are all enshrined in the Child Rights Act. Okay, so what the court is doing in that instance is to make sure that the child is protected. Because the truth is that if the court allows for everyone to come in and then for everyone to get into the arena of conflict, there are lawyers also who will go on appeal after whatever decision the court has taken to say that the right of the child's privacy was not taken into consideration during the proceedings.
Thank you so
and
much.
that may lead to setting aside whatever decision that the Court of First Instance must have taken.
Thank
so,
you.
I mean, we should understand it.
Thank you, Mr. Ofeli, and thank you for explaining this At least a layman would understand this.
Yeah.
The Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has expressed optimism that despite the challenges the country is faced with, the future is bright. Professor Osinbajo, who was represented at the annual Nigerian Baptist Convention, enjoined all to stay positive. Our correspondent, Jacinta Obioku, has more.
All the bandits, all the kidnappers.
Praying for the nation, Nigeria, is top on the list of the 6-day 109th annual Nigerian Baptist Convention.
The kidnappers, the wicked, fighting Nigeria, fighting our peace in the north, in the east, in the south, in the west. We declare them defeated in the name of Jesus. Amen.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, believes the future holds the best for the country, even in the deep-seated menace he was represented.
God's word instructs us to give thanks in all circumstances, when things are good and when things are even complex. Because our God is a God of complex situations. He steps into things even when they get really, really complicated. He is not a man whose options are limited. He has no limits. He has no boundaries. He has no quotas. He is God. And this is why I am completely convinced that the future of our nation is very bright.
He called for a positive mindset and confession.
If we want our personal circumstances to change, or we want our country to be at peace and to prosper, we, the saints of God, we must declare it. We must speak the reality we desire. We have been empowered by the Spirit of God, who is in this convention and in this nation, to use our praises, to use our thanksgiving, to roll away the stone of insurgency, of kidnapping, of economic hardship, of unbelief, of fear and hopelessness, which is facing us as a nation.
Baptist Church has been on the receiving end of the nation's insecurity, remembering the case of over 118 abducted Bethel Baptist High School students in Kaduna. The Baptist president, Reverend Dr. Israel Akanji, told the government to up its game in securing the people.
If the bandits will be getting in touch with relations, telling them that we got your phone number from your relative, if you don't bring so amount, we will not free the person, and we have waited and waited and help has not come. And in certain cases, we have even had to go and give money to them because life is bigger than money. To retrieve little children from the hands of bandits, we experientially and existentially can say that the government needs to do more than it is doing. The best of the government is not enough.
With the convention theme entering into newness with praise and thanksgiving, one can only hope for a better Nigeria, even as the nation goes into another general elections. Jacinta Obioku, PlusTV News.
The Lagos Blue Line Rail, on completion, would be running on electric tracks with electric motor vehicle EMV, and as such, citizens have been warned to keep off the track lines. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who handed down this warning while speaking with journalists shortly after inspecting the Blue Line Rail, assured Lagosians that the completion date of the two rail projects remain unchangeable. PlusTV News correspondent Love Ikukoyedokun tells us more in this report.
The train took off from the National Theatre Igomu to Orile, through Alaba, Mile 2, and back to the Marina axis of the state, having Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, some members of his cabinet, officials of the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA, and contractors handling the project on board. The governor inspected the ongoing works on the Blue Line Rail project and stations and a new 4-coach train, which according to him is a typical train that will be used on the Blue Line. He expressed satisfaction at the pace of work, maintaining that the project will be delivered on schedule. Sanwo-Olu was unhappy at the level of vandalism along the rail corridors and warned perpetrators to desist from such acts.
There are electric trucks. They are going to be running on electricity, and you will know that citizens or passengers or anybody whatsoever cannot walk on those things. Right. So, gentlemen of the press, you have that responsibility. From now, we'll begin to mention that for the next 6 months, 8 months, begin to mention that this track is not like the red line. The red line is DMU, but the blue line is EMU. So these are some of the communications that we need to begin to pass out, and they are electric train lines.
The governor also assured that adequate security will be put in place at every station and platform with the use of CCTV. He disclosed that the state was set to bring in from China additional 2 sets of 4 train coaches by September and October.
The additional trains that were procured for the Blue Line, we're going to be going to China when they open up, maybe in May or June, when it's completely completed, just to have a look and send it on shipment to probably get to the country before September, October. So based on the promises we gave you at the beginning of the year, we are still on track at both the red line and the blue line.
Governor Sanwo-Olu then moved to Akpongbo, where he once again inspected the bridge recently gutted by fire, giving the traders another 3 days ultimatum to vacate the area. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Uyedoku, PlusTV News.
We return to the report on the World Malaria Day, and as the world commemorates the day to raise awareness about mosquito-borne disease and examine efforts towards prevention, treatment, control, and elimination of the disease. And according to the World Health Organization, over 600,000 deaths from malaria were reported in Africa in 2021. However, as Nigeria joins the world to mark this year's Malaria Day, the Director of Medical Services of the Hospitals Management Board in Kano State, Dr. Suleiman Hamza, says that stakeholders in the health sector need to have a central coordination in the war against malaria. Our health correspondent Ngozi Kaohaichesi reports.
Over the years, Nigeria has been fighting to put an end to the deadly malaria scourge. According to the latest World Malaria Report, Nigeria accounts for about 31.9% of global malaria deaths, which is approximately 200,000 deaths in 2021, and over 60 million people are infected yearly. With this global report, the war against malaria is yet to be won in Nigeria. According to Dr. Suleiman Hamza, he says that the dirty environment across the country is a major challenge to stemming malaria scourge.
The environment is not quite clean because this is one of the reasons why malaria is still thriving. If you go to our towns and villages and wards, you still see refuse dump littering everywhere. The Ministry for Environment, even though I cannot speak for them, but from what I am seeing on the road, they are doing a lot to keep the environment clean. But it seems the people are not cooperating fully. For instance, in some areas of Kano City, people will bring out all the refuse dumped from their compound and gutters around them and dump them on the street. So this causes, it blocks the drainages and it causes a lot of havoc. So the environment is not quite clean, and that is why malaria is still thriving.
On the streets of Lagos, residents share how often they take ill with diagnoses pointing to malaria and the remedy they apply.
Sometimes in a month, like once in a month or twice in a month. As an adult, once in a month, but the kids, I can't count. Every day their body temperature is always high. I have malaria, like sometimes I take anti-malaria, and if it not work for me, I used to take all these herbs. Because of the environment, the water, so the mosquito is too much.
For me, it's maybe twice in 2 months. Once it happens, already I know the remedies, I can go to a pharmacist. But before then, I have to do a kind of lab test to know the dose, the level of such. So when I go to pharmacy, we know the right medication for me. It would prescribe, and once I take it, I'm okay.
I have malaria because I take care of myself often. So I do go for checkups and stuff like that. So no, not really. I don't really have sickness like that. Sometimes I use normal herbs, like normal herbs. So sometimes I go to the hospitals. But normally I used to go to the hospitals.
Too much you get malaria, but anytime I feel like weak or headache, so there is one pharmacy in our side that I recognize well. So when I go there, the man will treat me. You give me the normal malaria drugs. So 3-4 days, the thing have gone. So
I take all this agbo. They call it little abas. The typhoid. They will give me the typhoid, the passion, because the agbo is hot. When we mix it together, when I take it, I will see the effect in my body. So later I go to gym and work out. I do exercise a lot. Cures.
Dr. Suleiman discourages the use of herbs for the treatment of malaria. He explains that individuals with underlying health challenges could face serious complications from the use of unscientifically proven herbs to treat malaria.
Treatment with herbs is not encouraged. I do not encourage treatment of malaria with herbs because of a lot of issues: sterility, dosage, and people with comorbidity, people with renal or liver dysfunction can have problems with herbs. So I do not encourage it. Of recent, I know in ABU area, it has been tried. It is formulated in form of a sachet that could be dipped into warm water and the water. So that is a scientifically proven herbs that can be used in the treatment of malaria. But the common herbs that once a person has malaria will go to the bush and then pluck some leaves and then possibly take it, then it's not encouraged.
This year's World Malaria Day theme: harness innovation to reduce the malaria disease burden and save lives, is no doubt a global wake-up call to all health sectors across the world to innovate new vector control approaches, anti-malaria medicines, and other tools to speed up the pace of progress against malaria. Ngozika Ohaichasi, Plus TV News.
Still ahead, building collapse in India kills 2. This and more after this short break.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
And other parts of Africa, at least 168 people have been killed and 98 injured in tribal clashes in the western Darfur town of Krenik, the latest in an uptick of such incidents in the war-weary region. The Coordinating Committee for Refugees and Displaced People accused Janjaweed militias of attempting to clear the area to take control of the land. Western Darfur is home to many of the people displaced by the early 2000s conflict in the region, which saw the government put down armed rebels with help from nomadic Arab militias known as the Janjaweed. Guinea's ruling junta has signaled it might break a deadline to set out its plans to return to civilian rule, opening up the prospect of more sanctions from West Africa's political and economic bloc. There was no immediate announcement from the military rulers of Burkina Faso, who were facing the same deadline to hand back power to civilians after their January coup. West Africa has been rocked by 2 coups in Mali, one in Guinea and one in Burkina Faso since August 2020. And we move on to outside Africa, where the U.S. President Biden has said that he felt good about the outcome of the French election and would speak with the re-elected President Emmanuel Macron. Macron defeated far-right rival Marine Le Pen in a victory hailed as a reprieve for mainstream politics. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari has felicitated with the French President Emmanuel Macron for winning his second term in office. In a congratulatory message issued by his media aide, Malam Garba Shehu, President Buhari noted that Macron made history as the only sitting French leader to return in 2 decades. Buhari affirmed that the iconic leadership style of Macron had continued to inspire a new generation of leaders with interests in politics and governance. And we move on to Russia, where a senior Russian diplomat has said that there was no point in having a ceasefire in Ukraine at this stage, since Kyiv was likely to use it as an opportunity to try to discredit Russia. Russia's first deputy permanent representative to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyansky, said a ceasefire would only be an opportunity for Ukrainian forces to regroup and stage more provocations. He denied Russia struck any residential area in Ukraine's Black Sea port city of Odessa. However, Ukraine's Southern Air Command insisted that 2 missiles struck a military facility and 2 residential buildings in Odessa.
I don't think
if the Secretary General asks for a ceasefire, will Russia comply?
I think he asked for Easter ceasefire, and Easter is over right now.
So you didn't comply with his call for an Easter truce. What? If he asks for a ceasefire when he goes to Moscow, will Russia comply and end its war?
We are not supposed to comply with the calls. People comply with the orders, but not with the calls. So there was a call for ceasefire, and we opened humanitarian corridors which are not being used by Ukraine, and Ukraine is also compromising our efforts to open these corridors. So we don't think that ceasefire is a good option right now, because the only advantage it will give possibility for Ukrainian forces to regroup and to stage more provocations like Bucha, like I called to you. So frankly, it's not up to me to decide, but I don't see any reasons in this right now.
And coming up next, African Development Bank Group predicts energy and food price hikes in Nigeria. That's on Business News when we return.
And in business news, the 15% National Automotive Council levy slammed on used imported vehicles by the Nigerian Customs Service may have started splitting clearing agents as a faction plans a strike action while another sues for dialogue. The Nigerian Customs Service had recently introduced a 15% NAC levy on used imported vehicles, a decision which didn't go down well with clearing agents in the country's maritime sector. The agents have argued that the NAC levy is mostly meant for new vehicles, questioning the rationale behind the introduction of the duty on used vehicles. In a quick response, the service, in a statement by the National Public Relations Officer, Timi Bomodi, said the move was in compliance with the Economic Community of West African Common External Tariff. And also the president of the African Development Bank Group, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has said that the cost of fertilizer, rising energy prices, and rising cost of food baskets could worsen in Africa in the coming month. Additional warned that the tripling cost of fertilizer, rising energy prices, and rising cost of food baskets could worsen in Africa in the coming months. The AFDB president stressed the need for Africa to prepare for the global food crisis, which is further triggered by the war in Ukraine. He noted that 90% of Russia's $4 billion exports to Africa in 2020 was made up of wheat, and 48% of Ukraine's near $3 billion export to the continent was made of wheat and 31% of maize. And the Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State on Sunday said that work on the Blue Line Rail project is at 90% completion. He said that the state government is on track at completing work on both the Blue and Red Line rail projects, which are intra-city to strengthen the intermodal transportation system. According to him, contractors are working 7 days a week so that residents will ride trains on the rail by the first quarter of 2023. He said that the Blue Line rail will be running on electric tracks with electric motor vehicle EMV, and therefore warned residents to keep off the train lines and ensure they don't walk on it. And bakers under the aegis of Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria have said they will increase the price of bread effective Monday today. The president of the association, Emmanuel Honora, said the increase became inevitable due to the soaring cost of operations. He said, for PBAN, we have increased our bread price. We increased the prices of our bread across all variants. Ordinarily, if we want to follow the trend, we should be increasing our bread price by 300 naira. However, as a responsible association, we increased only the price of the biggest size, the one they call jumbo, by 100 naira, and the sliced bread by 50 naira. And that's business news. Thanks for watching. I am Destiny Momo. The news continues.
And entertainment news is up next.
Nigerian singer Ira Star has enlisted the services of Jamaican pop artist Kofi for the remix of a successful single, Bloody Samaritan. The Maven Records act gave fans a sneak peek into the upcoming project when she teamed up with a Jamaican counterpart for a performance at the Coachella Music Festival. Star, who alongside Lil J recently featured on a Native Sound System's debut single, Runaway, has kicked off the second quarter of the year with an intent. She enjoyed a good run towards the end of last year after the release of her sophomore work, 19 and Dangerous, which housed the Bloody Samaritan single. Fast-rising Nigerian singer Rema has shared how he made a transition from gospel to secular music. He once headed a gospel rap group in church. He noted that the switch began when he started going to sing at bars and lounges to make ends meet. He hadn't yet relocated to Lagos when he made the switch to secular music. According to him, the transition was weird for him and his mom, but he was unable to convince her about his choice. Jennifer Lopez is set to be all in a new documentary coming to Netflix on June 14th after his Tribeca film premiere. The documentary will follow the major highlights of Lopez's 2020 Super Bowl performance alongside Shakira and a presidential inauguration performance. It focuses on an international superstar who has inspired people for decades with her perseverance. creative brilliance, and cultural contributions. And it's only the beginning. The star made headlines recently after announcing her engagement to Ben Affleck, months after getting back together. It is unclear whether the documentary will focus reuniting with Affleck and rekindling things. Iggy Azalea has been slammed by American Airlines after she called out the company for allegedly selling her and her one-year-old son Onyx careless seats and leaving them stranded without their luggage. However, according to the company's staff working at the Miami International Airport, the fancy hitmaker arrived late at the terminal. According to the source, the luggage was returned to her home after a few days, but not before she said she booked a different flight on a different airline in order to accommodate her.
And now, sports up next.
Hello and welcome to Sports News on Plus TV Africa. The Athletics Federation of Nigeria, AFN, has announced that athletes for the upcoming African Senior Championships will be chosen at the second all-comers competition in Lagos this week. Nigeria's best athletes are expected in Lagos on Thursday and Friday for the AFN second all-comers competition, which will be held at the Yaba College of Technology. The two-day event, according to AFN Secretary General Prince Adisa Adeni Ibeyoku, will serve as selection trials for home-based athletes for the 22nd African Senior Athletics Championships, which will be held from June 8th to 12th, 2022 in Mauritius. He reminded all states, clubs and institutions planning to compete to confirm their entries upon their arrival at the venue on Wednesday, April 27th, 2022. AFN Technical Director Samuel Onikeku explained that the AFN All-Comers competition would also give athletes who want to compete in the championship a chance to meet the qualification standard before the window closes on April 30th, 2022. Novak Djokovic will have to wait for his first title of 2022 after Andrei Rublev spoiled the party by winning the Serbia Open on Sunday. The Russian second seed won the opening set and then saved 5 set points in the second to force a tie break. Djokovic delighted the home fans, though, by winning it and forcing a decider. The lack of match practice then seemed to catch up with the world number one, though, as Rublev ran away with the third set to claim a third title of the year in 2 hours and 29 minutes.
Game, problème. Nouvel obtenu Molim, numéro 6. Game, 7 match, problème. 16 juin, 7-6, 7-0. 6-2, 6-7, 6-0.
Dame I gospodo, pozdravite učesnike finala koji su dali sve od sebe.
Finally, in the NBA, the New Orleans Pelicans had too much for the Phoenix Suns on Sunday, winning 118-103 to level the series at 2-2. Brandon Ingram had 30 points, 16 of which were during a productive third quarter, as he became the first player in Pelicans franchise history to score at least 30 in 3 straight playoffs games. The Suns were without Devin Booker at the Smoothie King Center, with the Pelicans keeping Chris Paul restricted to just 4 points in 35 minutes. Game 5 takes place on Tuesday in Arizona.
Game 3 on Friday. Thunder drives into Hayes, then feeds it off for Eden, and no. That bridges up. No changes out of Atlanta. Right inside a collision. Wow, what a play by Indy. In threes. Now the Pelicans have their biggest lead. Call back in. Mickey parachutes in. Active game for the Suns.
9 of 10 combined between the center position.
A career high in the playoffs at 25. Intercepted. James! And the Pelicans have their... It's a three from Colorado. It's a touch right there by Nance. Back to McCollum. He's got 18. A rebound by Bridges. Oh, from behind! Alvarado stole it! Jones will finish it off!
We got him. He got him. Remember in game 1 when CP3...
And that's all the sports news we have for you for now. Join us next time. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. Have a good night.
And that's News Now. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I'm Loretta Chiogo, thanking you sincerely for watching the news, and have a good night rest.
Wagwan, welcome to Tea Time, your favorite entertainment show. Of course, you know, it is a Monday, a beautiful weekend, of course, and of course, you know, we're here to give you the vibes, intellectual conversations, dope narrations, analysis, and of course, dope dissections. And I never, ever, ever do it alone. We are on set. When I say we, I'm not speaking French. Yes, my guy is in the building. My foreign partner. Come on, where's the glasses at, though? Where's the glasses at?
I dropped it. I need.
You're looking good in it.
Thank you.
Are you feeling tension? The iPhone's too much. You know, paparazzi are everywhere.
This morning was just, it took a different turn from what I
But
expected.
let's really talk about Lagos and you know, how we pay for suffering and smiling at the same time. Because I live in Lekki, right? But I was you know, stuck in my house yesterday. I couldn't go out, right? Because the whole street was flooded, and I had to wait till a certain period of time before I could move, and that's because I drive an SUV. Now, my friend who drives the Corolla, his engine knocked yesterday, just because it moved in the flood.
Oh, wow.
Do you get what I mean? And it's just so appalling that we pay so much to leave.
Something so mediocre. There is nothing.
Do you get what I mean? Like, there's really nothing to it. People that live in Bagada, Magodo, Surulere, all those other places.
I think the catch for Lagos is probably the opportunities. That is the catch for Lagos.
Think
because
that
we take out the, we have to admit, no matter how we try to put it, we have to admit that Lagos has a good number of opportunities as for almost every field as compared to other states in the country. But if you take out these opportunities to flourish, business and all of that, I think Lagos not just be because the traffic this morning you need to see me the way I was running.
You say you left home by 6:30.
And you can imagine when I got here.
I live in Lekki.
You can I stay in Ajah, and you can imagine when I.
Now. Why you downgrading Ajah?
No, I'm trying to let them know the distance is like more than the average coming from Lekki. So you can imagine I left my house by 6:30.